Welcome to Building Resilience. I'm José Pereira, your host. This is the place where true leaders are forged, where stories of adversity turn into lessons of strength, and where faith, courage, and resilience come alive. Each week, we bring you voices that inspire, challenge, and equip you to lead with an unbreakable spirit. This is more than a podcast. It's a movement, and it begins right now.
If you're a leader, you need to hear this. Great leadership isn't about having followers. It's about making more leaders. The real measure of leadership isn't about power or position. It's about impact and influence. The best leaders uplift, mentor, and empower others to reach their full potential. Leadership isn't about control. It's about creating a culture where people feel valued, inspired, and ready to grow. Remember this: if you treat your employees like they make a difference, they will. Join us in transforming leadership into a movement. Watch this video and see the incredible difference it makes when leadership is about building leaders, not followers. What's the best leadership advice you've ever received? Drop it in the comments.
Welcome, everybody, to my Building Resilience podcast. We're going to be here having a wonderful conversation. Welcome back to the Building Resilience podcast. This is a show where we give leaders the tools to grow stronger under pressures and lead with the unbreakable spirit. I'm your host, José Pereira. I'm a survivor, I'm a CEO, coach, and author of From Hero to Villain. And today we're going to be diving into resilient faith, a whole personal leadership, and the power of the resilience will no longer serve you. So I'm going to have here a wonderful person that we have been having great conversation. His name is Kenyon R. Dudley. So let me introduce a little bit Kenyon, because this is something that I was asking behind the scenes about. Okay. He's an itinerant pastor. We're going to talk about what that means for the people in the audience that are not familiar with the term. He's a speaker. He's a communication strategist because he also trains speakers. And he's the creator behind initiatives like the Global Leader Roundtable and the Man Work podcast. He counsels ministry and marketplace leaders, so he's in both sides, okay? And he writes on healing, on identity, and leadership. He has 2 books. One of them is called The Give It Back Theory, Reclaiming Your Freedom, and the other is The Heal Thy Woman. So it's very interesting, Kenyon. So the mics are yours to introduce yourself.
Yeah, well, thank you. I really appreciate you, Jose, for having me and sharing your platform with me today, just to have a talk. I have, you kind of covered it. I essentially speak for a living, and I train individuals and coach individuals on how to speak when it comes to building their own speaker business, as well as I work with corporations as well with their teams, training their teams on how to properly communicate in order to affect their bottom line. And so I do that in the space of ministry, and business. I also come from the healthcare space as well. So you could probably tell by the titles of my book, just talking about wholeness and wellness and all of the things to make sure that you are a comprehensive leader, and able to really show up in your fullness in order to be effective. So very glad to be here to talk with you today, sir.
You know, I always mention the person that I bring to my podcast, uh, how we got connected. So let
Yeah.
me tell to my audience how I got connected with Kenyon, because Kenyon invited me to be a guest in his podcast, and he already aired my episode. So I told him, okay, I want you to be now my guest. But not
Yeah.
only that, we begin to have this divine connection, and now we're having things together. Even we're thinking to organizing events for next year. So
Yes.
this is the type of things that I always encourage the people that when you meet person, do it intentionally, because you will never know how this relation can lead you. Because that is what for me is called the divine connection. You connect
Yes.
with a person and you never know where that connection will lead to you. So can you come from the health space.
I
So
do.
mention a little bit about your back to the days of your story. Talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that.
Well, I will say that I started out with broadcast journalism, studying that in Los Angeles, at Los Angeles Valley College,
Okay.
and moved over into the psychology and mental health space, um, feeling like that was more of the thing that I was supposed to do, more of the thing that was connected with my purpose,
Mhm.
especially with the family that I had come from and seeing so many people in my family who were leaders in their own right. They pastored churches and led ministries. They were entrepreneurs in their own right. My mother and father was the owners of a non-emergency transportation business for 23 years. But seeing all of them deal with mental health in a way that affected them, that affected their communication, I felt that I was called to the space of psychology, and wanted to learn that, one, to make sure that I was whole and healthy, but also to help them. So got my bachelor's degree in psychology at Mercer University. Went on to get my master's of healthcare administration and business administration, with Western Governors University. We'll be working on my doctorate soon. And so I went into working with a $2+ billion net hospital in the Atlanta, Georgia area for years. And when I resigned from my leadership role there in the revenue cycle division, I had about 105 full-time employees and five supervisors that reported up to me within my division. And essentially what we did there in my division was, I called us the gatekeepers. So we made sure that we billed the insurances properly. We made sure that we spoke with, caregivers, attorneys, anyone that represented the patients, to ensure that they receive proper access into the healthcare system, and to make sure that they matriculated through the system and got what they needed and got connected with the proper providers and doctors that they needed. That was very rewarding for me, Jose, because not it wasn't just a job, right? I really felt and believed that we were helping people. There were so many underprivileged people, who we served there in that community. It is the number one hospital still in the city of Atlanta, right in the heart of downtown. So our community were mostly mental health patients, all of those type of individuals who had drug addictions, who were homeless, and they needed care. They needed help. And so my job there was rewarding. I worked that all the way until I transitioned into full-time entrepreneurship some years ago and started my own company where I began to train speakers, professionals like yourself and others who may be watching on how to create a business around their niche, a
So
business
how was that
around the thing that
transition?
they
Because
speak about.
I'm thinking here, you're a guy coming from the health space,
Yeah.
and one day you decided to change and begin to train speaker. What made you to do that transition?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've always been a speaker. So
Ah,
while I
okay.
was working in the healthcare space, I was being invited to different organizations
Ah,
to
okay, okay,
speak
okay.
on the healthcare side, but also because I'm a man of faith, I was being invited to speak at different faith conferences. I also, my wife and I, during that time, we were the leaders and the pastors of a local church in the outskirts of Atlanta, South Atlanta.
Okay, okay.
And so I was itinerant as well, meaning I traveled to different faith organizations and groups that hosted events, and I spoke. I've been speaking, Jose, since 10 years old.
Oh,
My,
wow.
my first opportunity, professional opportunity to speak, was at 10 years old on the stage in front of about 100, 150 people that was in the room.
Wow.
And I was speaking on my faith and speaking on how I believe that God could heal your mind. And if he could heal your mind, that he could use you for his glory. So it was not a random shift for me. I was already doing it in the backdrop of my healthcare career.
Okay.
And so when I felt the need to pivot and start my own business, this was a no-brainer for me to go right into the space where I help people learn how to build their businesses around speaking.
It's interesting because you're putting together. Uh, you were talking, and I was thinking, okay, he comes from a family of pastors, so now he
Yeah.
has that tradition of being a pastor. So that comes with the faith. You have been speaking because of your activity, and one day you decided to pivot your career. And this is something that sometimes the people don't get it because it's very interesting because you were following what truly became your calling, something that really you felt that was your calling.
Mhm.
And to the audience that are hearing this, sometimes you're not walking your calling because you're doing something that is not what you're meant to do. And you
Yes.
have to follow that 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 thing that's telling you, hey, you have to do this, you have to do this. So follow that because you at some point you heard that voice, your internal
Right.
voice, and you said, okay, let's follow this. When you decided to do that, were you scared doing that transition? How was that
Of
process for you?
course. Of course. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. And my wife will tell you, my team will tell you, I'm a planner, right?
Mhm.
I am someone that's just not going to make a sporadic move. I do count up the costs and take the time to understand my steps, right? And so this was literally about 5 years or so in the making before I literally transitioned and pivoted, right? But still, yes, afraid at times, but there's a resiliency. That's why I love what you do.
Mhm.
There's a resiliency in me. I've experienced many different, things in my life that some would deem as traumatic, some would deem as normal because they've experienced the same. But there's a tenacity and a resilience in me to keep pushing. So although I was afraid at some, points, there still was something in me that said, but this is my calling. This is what I'm called to. And I'm glad I did it because of all of the things that I was able to have been able to create now. There are thousands of people, literally, that I get an opportunity and a chance to connect with or to introduce them to their next level in their speaking career. And it's been the most rewarding thing. So, yeah, afraid, absolutely, but staring it right in its face and doing it anyway.
That's great. That's great. So you have been serving in the ministry and in the marketplace. How has that have been that combination for you?
Um, I got into, well, again, my family was full of entrepreneurs, right?
Okay.
So, I was always trying to sell something, right? Or to do something as a kid. So, but officially being in the marketplace as well as in ministry simultaneously, I would say I've been in that space for about maybe 12 or 13 years now that I've been doing that simultaneously and being able to really have my foot in corporate and have my foot in marketplace and also have my foot in ministry as well.
And how goes that combination? Because this is something is very interesting because there's a lot of when you come to talk about faith, there are people that think that okay, but you're talking about faith, you're talking about
Yeah.
religion, but how you combine that with the money? There's a lot of debate on this, and I always say Jesus never said that you had to be poor.
You know?
There's no way that he said that. He wanted you to be abundant, that to
Yeah.
be successful, following his path, of course, following his calling, following his path. So how you can make that combination, and when you get the scrutiny or somebody comes to you, what you have to say?
I think that's so great that you bring that up. We have faced those questions before. We have faced that type of criticism before, and still do. It's just it comes along with the territory because people in the general public are not used to seeing people of the kingdom of God thrive. They're just
Mm,
used to the religious part of what serving God looks like. And so when you have only been exposed to religion and not necessarily a relationship with God
mm, mm,
and Jesus Christ and what it really looks like to walk as a disciple of his,
mm,
then you'll miss it. You'll misinterpret, especially my call and what I do. I do believe that Jesus affected every sphere that was in his day and his time. If you look at the life of Jesus, you'll understand that every system turned upside down and right side up again because of his existence. And he didn't see, the corporate space or marketplace as off limits. In fact, he came for us all. And I believe that he has, created people like myself in leadership that's trekking in both worlds to be able to exemplify the love of Christ, the excellence of Christ, the astute and soundness when it comes to wealth building and all of those things. I believe that he created people like me to trek in both worlds to be an example that you don't have to be poor or stuck in a one-track mind when it comes to serving God, that in fact he has empowered us and emboldened us with gifts, endowed us with intellect, wisdom, and understanding, the ability to communicate, right? To be
mm.
able to go into all parts of the world and represent his kingdom, thereby hopefully someone looking and saying, I want to know your God. I want to know who it is that you serve because you have such a phenomenal life. You have such a life of peace, tranquility. You don't have any needs or desires. Where do you get that from? That gives me an opportunity to be a witness for Christ with the things that I do. So, I believe that Jesus was our model. He was not afraid to befriend doctors. In fact, I believe it was Luke in the Gospels who was a
Mm,
doctor.
mm,
He was not afraid to befriend the tax collector. I believe Matthew was the tax collector
mm.
in the Gospels. He wasn't even afraid to go before the Sanhedrin or go before the court of the day and to speak boldly. And he affected change through his communication, which is why I love communication so much. He affected change in such a way that many people found the light. They found the way. They found a way to live an abundant life, a free life from the inside out because of that. And I do want to say this one other thing, going to Old Testament, because there may be some people who are very aware of the Old Testament. Well, Kenyon, where is that in the Old Testament? One of the things that I always point to is there was a lot of kings in the Bible that were beyond wealthy and
Wow.
still gave their life to God.
Correct.
David, You
Tell me.
have Joseph, who, oh
Joseph.
my gosh, his own family disowned him and put a whole narrative out that he was eaten and taken, well, not eaten, excuse me, taken away, into captivity. But they sold him into slavery because of his gift and his talents. But then he ended up being second in command in Egypt during a famine,
Mhm.
very wealthy, but
Mhm.
yet being a man of God. And so
Job.
Deuteronomy,
Job.
yeah, Deuteronomy 8 and 18 says, God has given us the ability to create wealth, right? And I really believe that. I believe that he's given us all the ability to do that. And so just because we're believers in Christ doesn't mean we don't get an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, that's so true because first thing, Jesus didn't come to this world to create a religion. He came
Oh,
to bring the kingdom of God. So there has been a confusion with this.
yes.
And the second thing that I can say is that if you have your business, your company, whatever, that is your ministry.
Yeah.
That is where you can show what God and Jesus has done to you.
Yeah.
And this is a way you can evangelize people.
Oh,
Because
yes.
when the people see you and see you as a model and see, hey, what this guy has. Okay, that is where you can say, because I have the piece of Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, so true, so true. I wanted to set this conversation because there's a lot of debate with this. And again,
Sure.
you have to be very clear on this. And to the audience that hear this, what this guy is talking here is a lot of wisdom, a lot of wisdom. So so let's talk a little bit about that give it back framework, because now that we're talking about that abundance, there is another thing that is the art of giving back. So let's
Yeah.
talk about a little bit about that.
So the give it back theory was actually born out of or created out of necessity, to be honest with you. And rolling it back just a little bit, I have talking about I've had experience in the healthcare field and mental health space and all of that. Me writing the Give It Back Theory book was my opportunity to share with leaders how to keep their mental health intact. Okay. Um, I believe in the technology, spiritual technology of generosity
Mhm,
in
mhm,
all forms. And
mhm,
so it doesn't just have to be financial. It doesn't have to be, just a dollar bill or, any other form of currency in that way. But when you display generosity, it can also be learning how to give individuals their responsibility for their own lives and actions
mhm,
back.
mhm,
And so that's what that book is all about. I found myself and others who are leaders in their own right, CEOs, all the way to entrepreneurs of small businesses, burnt out burnt out because they found themselves not only leading their own life and having to bear their own weight and responsibility, but they found themselves also bearing the weight and responsibility of other people's lives
wow.
and really trying to make decisions on behalf of other people and trying to be, dare I say, these individuals' God, if you will. And they found themselves at a crossroads of being burnt out, stressed, and not able to perform at the optimum level that God had created them, not able to lead their organizations well because they're so split in their mental real estate and in
Mhm,
their heart real estate that they're not effective in anything. And so I teach in the book practical and spiritual ways to literally offload the things that do not belong to you and giving people their lives, their ability to choose, their responsibility back to them, allowing them to be fully responsible for their life and their actions, and learn how to only pay attention to what God wants you to do. It's one thing to, Jose, be there in support of other people, right?
Yeah.
It's another thing to try to make choices for them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So true.
And so I found myself doing that. I know a lot of other people, because we're so used to being leaders and making choices and making decisions, sometimes we're in type A mode where we're not just making decisions for ourselves, but we're making decisions for other people. But that's not true leadership. True leadership is learning how to give others the proper tools that they need and the proper space and opportunities that they need to be the fullness of who they are. That ensures that everybody carries their own weight. So the give it back theory is, I have a theory. My theory is, if you learn how to give back to Jose or whomever is in your life, all of what belongs to them, and only focus on what God has given you the capacity for, you will be much more successful, much more at peace and at ease, and much more effective in what God has called you to do. So give it back. Learn how to give back what's not yours and hold on to whatever God has called you to be responsible for.
No, and that's so true because if you have try to put this in a company, you have your employees, and you teach them how to do things and how to take care of their things by their own. At the end, it's gonna be a win-win situation because they're gonna
Yes.
be empowered in what they're doing, and you're gonna be also empowered because it's like a ripple effect in your organization. And this is something that leaders sometimes don't think about it, that you want to have the control of everything.
Right.
So you want to control everything, so you don't leave the space to the people to grow.
Mhm.
And I always say that when you're in a leadership position, if you shine and your people shine, you're gonna shine brighter. You're,
Absolutely.
you're gonna shine bright. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Don't give a fish. Teach them how to fish.
Teach them. That's right. Teach them how to fish, and so give them, yeah, so give them that responsibility back. Give them their autonomy back. Give them their ability to operate, their God-given ability
Mhm. So
to
true.
operate in their lane. When you are always the one doing things or making the choices, you inadvertently kill everybody else's dream and purpose.
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking in something that is a little bit funny, but when I was in my captivity situation, we were six
Right.
guys. Let me give you this. We were six guys. We were six guys, and we were six executives. I was the
Mhm.
CEO, and the other five guys was the vice president. I
Mhm.
could have been trying to be the leader of the group, but we decided that everybody had their own expertise.
Right.
So we divided our leadership in the expertise that each had.
Yes.
And every time that person was leading according to what he was meant to lead, everybody was following him. So it was
Yes.
was like a collective leadership. And let me tell you, that really worked for us. That really worked for us. So I was thinking, why you don't do this in your business? Because
Mhm.
even you still are the leader, you still are the CEO, but if you empower your team and you give them the ability, they can, they get empowered to
Yeah.
take their own decision. You're going to be supervising, but they're going to be leading their process.
Hmm.
At the end, everybody's going to be rowing in the same direction. It's going to be that your business is going to become more successful at the end.
Yes. Yes. I totally agree. And that's so good that even in such intensity, right, that you guys were in, you were able to discern that and say, okay, this is not the moment for me to necessarily be their CEO. We are in a place that's detrimental, that's
We need
deadly,
to
that's
survive. We needed to survive.
we're here to survive. So who knows what best in this particular area? You are the one that we, as an organization or a group, we need to lean on in this moment.
Mhm, mhm.
And let me tell you, I've learned the hard way and watched others learn the hard way as well. when you try to take on the bulk of what you believe you should be doing as that leader, it's going to break you down. And in
And you're gonna
your
kill the
case, it could have
initiative,
kept you in captivity.
and you're gonna kill the creativity and the initiative of the others. So you're gonna get
Absolutely.
burned out, and you're gonna kill them. It's a lose-lose situation.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I've seen organizations, small businesses, unfortunately, that were that had the potential to be excellent. I mean, if you looked at the feasibility reports and all of those things, this was the market to be in for that business. But what caused it to shut down and what caused it to belly up was the leader.
Yeah,
The leader didn't know how to give back. The
yeah,
leader didn't know how to stay in his or her lane
yeah.
and allow the team to be in their lane and allow that entire organization to become a living organism and move and grow on its own. Can I just say this before we go to the next thing?
Yeah, yeah.
This is also a heart check, right, for leaders, because you have to answer the question, do you want to live and lead in pride, or do you want to live and lead? And so the only way that you're able to live and lead is if you have something that's thriving that needs your leadership. But the only way that that can be alive for you to lead is if you learn how to lead from a place of humility and grace and
Yeah.
allow others to be great around you so that you can have something to oversee and to steer and steward. So, yeah.
Well, you mentioned a word that I believe that is key in this conversation: humility. A
Yeah.
leader has to be had humility, has to be humble, had to be, you know, a person that had the ability to say, I don't know everything. I need you.
Yes.
I need your support. I need your help if it's needed. Because that is not only that you're going to be humble the way you're going to express this, that at the same time, the other will see you. Okay, this is a person that's been raw with me. He has been transparent. He has been honest. So it will create a more trustful situation.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely. Totally agree.
so let's talk about, you have another book that is Heal Thy Woman. What
Yeah.
series? What is that about?
Well, to be honest with you, and not all of my books are listed there on the list. I
Oh,
have
you had,
done over 8 books.
oh, wow.
And but that one that you're talking about was in particular for women leaders. So
Okay.
I niched into focusing on women who were in leadership at whatever tier and whatever industry. Um, and it just goes back to my home base for me of wholeness and wellness and being a total comprehensive leader, and able to be effective in what God has given you real estate over. I saw a lot of women leaders in my life as I grew up, thankfully. It was a well-balanced upbringing for me. As many male leaders as I had in my life, I had a lot of female leaders as well. But I did see that a lot of women have had to overcome certain prejudices and certain, if it, the term would be traumas, if you will, in corporate, in ministry, and other industries as well. And so I just wrote this book series. It's actually a series um, that talk directly to the heart and to the mind of women, giving them place and space, number one, to let them know that there is a male, a man that understands, and that's coming in support of them and who they are, and want them to be the very best of what God has created them to be. That's number one. But also number two, I wanted to give voice and language to a lot of the inequities that women have had to endure in various spaces. And so I know, me being a male, there are certain groups and spaces that would listen to me quicker than they would a woman. And that's just the truth. Many people who are watching this podcast are probably going to be in the chat agreeing, because it's that big elephant in the room.
Mhm.
We know that in some cases, I'm not saying all, but in some cases, women have to work twice as hard to even get a fraction of what we get paid
Yeah.
in certain industries. And so I wanted to write a book and a book series that was an homage to women, to let them know that I understand, I see, and hopefully I can lend credibility and voice to their inequities and traumas, um, in hopes that certain organizations, certain industries would, if not change overnight, would at least take the time to consider that there are inequities and prejudices that we probably need to take a look at when it comes to women and women leaders.
Did your wife vetted your book when you were preparing
She was my number one coach.
it?
She was my number one coach.
What about the scrutiny of other women? They say, "Hey, you're a male. Why are you talking
Of
about
course.
us?"
And listen, I have experienced it all, but again, it goes back to that resiliency of who I am. I will be honest and say I've had a little bit of pushback there, but I've had more acceptance, believe it or not, in that space than not. Which is why, if you looked at my network right now, um, there's just I have a lot of men that trust me and that want to partner and do work. And I'm so grateful for that. And we do that. But I have, if not equal, more women who want to partner or give into and be generous to the things that I have going on, because they know that what we create it has them in mind. So I've had more acceptance than pushback. But indeed, I've had some pushback.
So let's talk about because now we're coming to the space that you wanted to help other speakers to craft their message. You created a platform for that. You have been doing in person and online events, and
Yeah.
all these platforms are faith based events, or are basically leadership. So what is that? The topic?
Yeah. So most of them are faith-based, but I have done events where it's not necessarily faith-driven or faith-based. It's been open
Okay.
to whomever. It's just more niched in the area of whatever industry, that we're
Okay.
hosting those events for.
Mhm.
So it does go both ways for me.
Okay. So let's talk about this the Global Leadership Roundtable. Talk a little, how that idea came, and what is the stage with that right now?
So the Global Leaders Roundtable, it was an idea that really was born out of me discerning the times, me understanding that we are in a day and time, especially in America, where leadership is under fire. We are seeing people that are in leadership roles that are totally destroying organizations, companies, and industries from the inside out because
Mhm.
of pride or whatever else you want to name, greed, whatever. And so leadership is under fire from the church to the corporate space. Leadership is under fire. And I am a man of faith. I am a man that pray on everything that I do. So I prayed about it. I said, God, what can I offer to the world that would be a part of the solution
Mhm.
with raising up healthy, whole and complete and compassionate leaders, and also giving voice to those leaders, those type of leaders that are already in position. And the Global Leaders Roundtable came about. The idea was to bring leaders who are whole and healthy, who are compassionate, who are humble, right? And who are willing to lend their voice to discussions and thoughts that we need to be raising in these times. And so I started out virtually inviting leaders who are literally CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, CEOs of, gas station chains, all the way to CEOs of healthcare clinics, just in various spaces, inviting them online to talk to me about current events, things that we need to discuss and bring solutions to. And then it just turned into, Jose, something that was beyond what I saw. It turned into a virtual summit that literally had hundreds of people that was a part of that summit. We just did the Global Leaders Roundtable virtual summit in September. And we had over 65 speakers from around the world, people from Kenya, people from Germany, South Africa, Canada, Australia, all over the United States, everywhere. And the common thread was they were all believers. They were all, men and women of faith, but they were owners of businesses and corporations and executives in hospitals and tech. And we came for 2 days and we had some of the most pertinent discussions and provided solutions for those industries. And I'm still getting feedback right now from the hundreds of people that showed up, that they have taken these strategies that we shared and they are starting to implement it with their teams and implement it with their organizations. So we're affecting change. And so that's what the Global Leaders Roundtable is all about. It's a virtual summit now. We are moving to have it as an in-person convention very soon.
Okay. You mentioned something very important, Kenyon, that is that some leaders, they are full of ego, they're full of pride, greed, are destroying the concept of leadership. By the way, if you go back to some kind of leadership that today is in the world, people can argue to you, say, but if you see this type of leader, they're very autocratic leadership.
Yes.
But I always say that, okay, that can be true temporary basis.
Right.
But if you want something more permanent, you really need leaders that are based on the purpose, based on their faith, based on their kindness, those type of skills that looks like soft skills, but really are going to be the skills that will make that leader do something that is, he will leave a legacy. The others will not leave a legacy. The others will pass and they will be forgotten. But those that make those impacts in the people, that create that connection with the people, because they are trustful, they are empathetic, they are good communicators, they trust people, they really care of the people. Those are going to be who are really going to last a legacy. What do you think about that?
I agree. And even in the current work that I do, when I'm going into different organizations, whether it's small or big, and I'm working with their teams and their leaders on communication, I think that's one of the greatest tools to be able to convey and to establish a great legacy. And so that's why I do a lot of hard work, soft skills or spiritual skills, if you will. I do a lot of hard work. I do a lot of mental work. I do a lot of that on the back end with leaders, even before I teach you how to create your own speaker business, because communication is one of the most powerful technologies that we've been given in the earth. And what you say and what you convey to one another or to whoever is following you, that is going to determine whether or not you are creating a lasting legacy like you talk about. And if I may say, you're going to create a legacy, whether it's positive or negative. Either way it goes, you're going to create a legacy. It depends on what's in your mind, in your heart, and your character, and the way that you're able to convey that and convey that message to those that are depending on your leadership, whether or not it's going to be a positive or a negative legacy. But I
Yeah.
totally agree with you.
Yeah. So now that we're talking about communication, where comes and how it fits now the podcast, the Man World podcast? How it come? What was the origin of this idea, and what is you want to convey doing this podcast?
Well, I will say, and if I may, I'm going to kind of pivot just a little because there is a framework that I teach, and I'll kind of go through it very quickly. But there's a framework that I teach if I'm doing one-on-one coaching and helping people build their speaker business, or if I'm in an organization helping their team, or if I'm at a ministry talking to all of their pastoral leadership. It's one thing that I teach, and even when I'm speaking on stage, I teach the CAST method. CAST, the CAST method. And that just means that I'm teaching you the proper way to communicate whatever it is that God has given you, whatever it is that you are trying to communicate in such a way that is going to ignite people and is going to incite people. And simultaneously, it will drive up revenue, it will drive up profit, it will drive up productivity, and even position you for scalability. CAST, C for clarity, A for alignment, S for structure, T for tone. If you can master these four areas, no matter what type of leader you are, no matter what type of work it is that you're stewarding, if you could master these levels of communication, then you can get your message across, whether it's your team or whether it's an audience that you're standing in front of on a stage. And if you could properly get that message out, you could transform somebody's life and even an organization.
Correct. So how come the podcast in this all these things?
So the Global Leaders podcast.
Yeah, the global leaders. Yes.
Yeah. So how is it connected to the work that I do? Yeah. So again, this is the opportunity that I give leaders to come together and to convey whatever their message is with clarity, and to show their alignment with their purpose, and also to share whatever structure or framework it is that they have, and also to be an example of the right tone that is necessary to get people to listen. And so I integrate that in the work that I do with the Global Leaders Roundtable podcast. I do it. I think I've done we're in the hundreds now, over 100 or so leaders who've come on that podcast who have really been a great example of not igniting, but who have really been a great example of showing what the CAST method looks like if you are employing those right tools: clarity, alignment, structure, and tone. So that's how I would say it connects with the podcast.
Okay. So you have also the 90 days content roadmap to build trust without burnout. What is that?
Well, that goes back to just the mental health of leaders that I'm concerned about.
Okay.
And just making sure that I'm sharing tools for people to be able to use in their everyday life to make sure that they're healthy, right? Mentally and spiritually. And so that 90-day roadmap literally just serves as another tool that leaders use to be able to check in on themselves and to see who they are, where they are mentally and spiritually. Because I believe that whatever is in you is going to come out. If you're going to, whatever's in you is going to be said, whether it's in your meeting in the boardroom, or whether it's in your meeting with your team, whether it's in your huddles, or whether it's on a stage if you're speaking in front of, a live audience and you're teaching on your niche idea. Whatever's in you is going to come out. And so I like to provide different tools and strategies like the 90-day blueprint here for leaders to have their one-on-one time to really assess who they are, where they are in their heart, in their spirit, in their mind, so that when they show up in the office or show up in the boardroom or show up on the stage, they're showing up as their whole complete self.
Wow. What is next to Kenyon? What is the next coming?
Jose, is that a trick question? No. A lot. But we're pacing ourselves, me and my team, we're pacing ourselves. There, I will say there are a lot of things we're getting over into tech-wise. There are a lot of things we're getting over into as far as expanding different events that we already produce, and launching other type of events, partnerships that I'm excited about as well. So a lot of things that's on the horizon, but I think the main goal is to make sure that we're continuing to scale the Global Leaders Roundtable brand. And right now I have a free Facebook group that's on Facebook that is nearing 2,000 members. And so what's next is making sure that I'm providing as many stages and platforms for those, people who are leaders and speakers in their own right to be able to get their message across so that we can affect change and provide solutions in various areas.
Now that we're talking, I don't know if we had the conversation the other day because you're in Dallas, and
Yes.
you're in the speaker's place with a faith-driven emphasis. And I have a friend. I don't know if I mentioned to you Terry Lee Harrison that she's
Yeah, I know her.
Okay,
Wonderful,
well,
wonderful lady.
Terry Lee said to do something similar for women. She has been more focused in women. She
Okay.
talked with men too, but she has been creating a group for women, for
Got it. Okay.
faith-driven women speakers. And so this is the type of thing that when I begin to hear you and hear her, and there's a guy called Paul Newberger that has a group called the C-Suite for Christ, that he's
Okay.
trying to create a movement
Yes.
of business owners. For me, everything is kind of rowing in the same direction because people are trying to take their faith to another level,
Yeah.
and do whatever they're doing as is they were their ministry. That is a
Right.
way. I believe that is a way you can evangelize because
Yes.
you're doing things because of the kingdom. So what will be your final words in that area? How the people can get connected to you, by the way? How the people
Sure.
can, and what is your final thought on all of this?
Yeah, that's so good. Thank you so much for that. Well, people can connect with me. First of all, I encourage everyone to join the group on Facebook. It's called Need a Speaker. And literally, it's almost 2,000 people now. And it's just organically growing. We have people from all over who are speakers. And maybe you want to be a speaker, or maybe you are a speaker, but just looking for that next stage or platform or opportunity in that group. That's the main goal, to connect you with different event hosts and organizers and people who are in that group that you can network with. So I invite people to join that group. If you want to book me to come and speak or share, you can do that. I don't know if you're going to share in the description below, but my email, I can share that. It's Kenyon R. Dudley official at gmail.com. People can connect with me there as well. But all over social media, I'm Kenyon R. Dudley on IG, on Facebook, LinkedIn, Kenyon R. Dudley. I would love to connect with you and see how I can support whatever it is that God has you doing. It's interesting that you talked about where we're growing into, because I do believe that we are in a time where discipleship and community is of necessity.
Oh, of course.
And I believe that a lot of our businesses, for those of us who are of the faith of Jesus Christ and we're followers, Christ followers, we know what discipleship looks like and how it's modeled. And I believe that God is giving us innovation, giving us strategy and ideas, Jose, to be able to create hubs, to create communities full of people who are of like mind, maybe like industry, um, to sharpen one another. There's a scripture that I love that it talks about iron sharpens iron. And I believe that these type of organizations and groups that you've named and my groups as well are indicative of the times that we are not going to be able to get the next level of solutions deployed in these industries that we represent, especially from a kingdom perspective, if we don't come together and if we don't learn how to partner and if we don't learn how to move together as one and as an army. So my thoughts when I hear you say Tara Lee and other individuals are creating these type of groups, it excites me because I believe that everybody should at least be a part of a movement or be creating a movement in some sort of way. Because it's in those movements and in those collective bodies where we'll be able to affect the most change. So that if I had to leave anything with you and your listeners, it would be, we talked about humility a lot today. It would be really work on character and assess where you are as an individual, not just as a leader, not as a person who holds a specific title or have certain letters behind their name. I think we all, you and I, we have letters behind our names, but at the end of the day, it's not about those letters, it's about our character. And it's about our ability to be nimble enough, flexible enough, open enough to partner in ways that glorify God, but not only just glorify God, but that could really affect change in a very positive way in our industries. I believe we can move the dial and move the needle in a great way if we learn how to come together. So I would leave that to you with your listeners.
Well, Kenyon, this was an incredible interview. By the way, I'm surprised we took 1 hour.
Wow, that felt short.
It felt really short. That's good because that means that the conversation was very fluid, very interesting. Yes. So let me tell you something. This to the audience that are hearing this, connect with Kenyon R, Dudley, all over the place. I'm gonna leave your email here. If you have a web page or whatever you want to promote, I will put it here. And to the listeners that are hearing this, my big takeaway is that create communities. Don't do things together alone. Create communities. Be together and follow your calling and following your purpose. And you are a disciple. You need to put your expertise for the kingdom of God. I believe that is our calling today. So, Kenyon, that has been an incredible conversation. Thank you for being here, and let's be in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Next week, we're going to have another great speaker that I'm going to be bringing. Stay tuned and continue hearing my Building Resilient Thoughts. Thank you, Kenyon. Let me finish here.
If you're a leader, you need to hear this. Great leadership isn't about having followers. It's about making more leaders. The real measure of leadership isn't about power or position. It's about impact and influence. The best leaders uplift, mentor, and empower others to reach their full potential. Leadership isn't about control. It's about creating a culture where people feel valued, inspired, and ready to grow. Remember this. If you treat your employees like they make a difference, they will. Join us in transforming leadership into a movement. Watch this video and see the incredible difference it makes when leadership is about building leaders, not followers. What's the best leadership advice you've ever received? Drop it in the comments. If you're a leader, you need to hear this. Great leadership isn't about having followers, it's about making more leaders. The real measure of leadership isn't about power or position, it's about impact and influence. The best leaders uplift, mentor, and empower others to reach their full potential. Leadership isn't about control, it's about creating a culture where people feel valued, inspired, and ready to grow. Remember this, if you treat your employees like they make a difference, they will. Join us in transforming leadership into a movement. Watch this video and see the incredible difference it makes when leadership is about building leaders, not followers. What's the best leadership advice you've ever received? Drop it in the comments.